Thank you, Dionisio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Greenville Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Garnet Conaway, and I serve this congregation on the Pastoral Care Committee and in the choir. So whether you have been here with us on Sundays for a long time, getting a little feedback, or visiting for the first time today, you are welcome here to our service. We're glad you're here. This congregation, am I the only one that hears that? Okay. This congregation is diverse in beliefs, with participation, open to all who agree to embrace our covenant, mission, and values regardless of your partisanship or lack thereof. We are a welcoming congregation to people of all sexual orientations, gender identities, races, ethnicities, and abilities. We unconditionally welcome you as your full, authentic self to our community of care, spiritual growth, and personal growth. Our congregational mission is to strengthen our connections to one another and our planet by enlivening lives, minds, and spirits, building community through liberating love, and advocating fiercely for justice. Now, it is a custom in our congregation to acknowledge visitors and newcomers, so if it's your first time here, would you mind raising your hand so we can acknowledge you? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Everyone is invited after the service to join us down in the fellowship hall for coffee and tea and all kinds of things. And new and newish folks are invited to grab a green mug. You can find these right inside the fellowship hall off to the right. This way we can easily spot you and speak to you if that's your wish during the coffee hour. Also, you're welcome to fill out one of the gold cards that are located in the pew in front of you so you can stay informed regarding all of our activities. Simply drop the card in the offering basket or in the box at the hello table, which is right outside the door there. For a list of what's going on today after the service, please check out the list on the back of your printed order of service. You'll also find a QR code there that links to our recent e-news edition. Please know that whatever your religious history, whatever your spirituality, all people of goodwill are welcome here. Your presence makes us better. Your presence makes us whole. Our service will now begin.
Good morning. I'm Katie Kern. I have the pleasure of serving on your Sunday Services Committee, the Personnel Committee, our Food Guild, and I'm happy to be with you today as your worship associate. As I light the chalice today, I ask it to hold our pain, our anger, our frustrations. In a world that often hurts, anger can be its own natural fire. But holding on to anger only burns ourselves. So as we give our anger to this chalice to hold, we do not deny our outrage. We simply allow the flame to transform our heavy burdens into justice, compassion, and peace, and allow the warmth of its fire to soften the sharp edges of our anger. On the Sundays when our called minister, the Reverend Chris Hockman, is in the pulpit, our Sunday Services Committee members honor our UU tradition of shared ministry by serving as her worship associates. On the Sundays when Reverend Chris is not in the pulpit, we carry forward our UU tradition of lay-led services or guest speakers, or like today, guest ministers, from both within and without our congregation. And today is one of those services, and we're honored to have the Reverend Dr. Stephen Morgan with us today. The Reverend Dr. Stephen Morgan is a retired United Methodist minister in the South Carolina Conference. He did his undergraduate work at Wofford College before progressing to Duke University's Divinity School and then to the Chandler School of Theology at Emory University. The Reverend Dr. Morgan is the former president of my hometown of Anderson's Forum for Progressive Theology. And he and his beautiful wife, Phyllis, will celebrate their 56th wedding anniversary next month. Our call to worship today, this morning, is adapted from Brene Brown's Braving the Wilderness, the quest for true belonging and the courage to stand alone. Anger is a catalyst. Holding on to it will make us exhausted and sick. Internalizing it will take away our joy and spirit. Externalizing it will make us less effective in creating change and forging connection. However, it is an emotion that we often need to transform into something life-giving: courage, love, change, compassion, or justice. In some cases, anger can simply be a mask for a far more difficult emotion, like grief, regret, or shame. In those cases, we need to use it to dig into what we're really feeling. In any case, despite anger being a powerful catalyst, it's a life-sucking companion. I ask you to join us in body or spirit as you're willing and able, and sing with us the hymn, Let Love Be Real. Now, this hymn is from the Methodist hymnal, so if you see a number in here, that's not our hymnal. That's the Methodist hymnal, which we don't have. But you will find the words up on the screen, and Dionisio is going to play it through once in its entirety so we can get the melody. So if you will please stand as you're willing and able and join us in singing the hymn, Let Love Be Real.
morning. I'm David Funderburk. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at Goof. And often about this time of the month, I announce when our next Friendly UU dinner will be. It's usually on the fourth Wednesday of the month. And I wanted to let you know that we're taking a break from the Friendly UU dinner this month because the RE Council has been organizing these dinners for the past year and a half or so. And we realized we needed to pause and ask for more help. But even more than asking for more help, we wanted to share some of the joy that we experience putting these dinners together with everyone else here. Because we realized that making food together, planning the meals, eating together is it's a spiritual practice that just by sharing some time in the kitchen, chopping up veggies with someone else, you get to know them and you build connections that you might not already have. And so we want to invite people to join us in this community building spiritual practice that we do each month. And we'd love for you, if you are interested in cooking or shopping or event planning or just eating together, we would like you to join us in what we're going to call the Food Guild. Food, F-U-U-D, Friendly UU Dinner Guild. It's a guild is a group of people that do something. They all do the same thing and they do it together. And so we're all going to invite you to do this together with us, to keep these dinners going, and to join us in the joy of it. So if you're interested or you'd like to learn more about that, please, there's going to be a table at coffee hour where you can learn more about how you can help or how you can join us. And next Sunday after the service, we'll have a little meeting of anyone who's interested during coffee hour so we can learn how we can join forces to make our August food night the best one yet. So I hope you'll join us in that. And after our story today, any kindergarten through high school children or youth are welcome to join us downstairs in the RE Commons for some fun fellowship time together. So now I want to welcome any children or youth or anyone of any age who'd like to come up close to hear our story today to come. You can come sit on the floor at the base of the steps or in the front pews. Welcome, everyone. Is this microphone working? It sounds like, oh, there it is. Our book today is about kindness. And I'm wondering, have you ever had a day where it seems like everyone you come across is grumpy? Or sometimes it just feels like there's so many powerful people in the world that just aren't taking other people's feelings into account, or they're not empathetic enough. And if you have a day when everyone around you is being grumpy, how does that make you feel? Makes you feel sad? Any other words for how that might make you feel? Make you feel what? Okay. I know when I feel sad or when I feel grumpy, it's hard to be kind when you feel that way. But if you're also not going to be kind, and the next person you meet is going to feel your grumpiness, then this train of grumpiness just continues and continues. So for me, that points out for us that being kind is a practice that we need to practice all the time, whether we feel grumpy or not. Because otherwise, that train of grumpiness is just going to take over. So our story today is by Anna Milbourne, illustrated by Asa Gilland, and it's called I'm Almost Always Kind. Because not only is it, I think we can call it a spiritual practice to be kind, it's also kind of a skill that we need to work on sometimes. So we'll see how this character, the main character here, learns better how to be kind. My mummy told me that being kind is the most important thing in all the world. More important than being the fastest runner, I asked? Or than knowing all the answers? Even more important than those, she said. Then it is very lucky, I said quickly, that I am always kind. Being kind means sharing my sweets, helping my little sister reach things from the high shelf, tidying away the breakfast things, trying to cheer people up when they feel sad. But sometimes when I'm kind, it doesn't work out the way I want it to. Hey, new kid, I like your crazy hair. Why did she look so sad when I gave her a nice compliment? Why was Mr. Williams so cross about me being kind to snails? Here you go, little snail, a nice dinner for you. Eat up all the flowers. Hey, stop that. And when I invent a great game for me and my sister to play, let's be giants jumping on castles. She screams, "Wah, you're so mean." And I feel mad and bad and sad. I only meant to be kind. I helped fix my sister's sandcastles, and afterwards I told Mummy that I hadn't meant to be mean. Mummy understood. But what you think is nice isn't always the same as what someone else thinks is nice. Sometimes, to be kind to someone, you have to walk around in their shoes first. So, I tried it. You ruined Mommy's shoes. She's going to be so cross. It didn't work. Now I didn't feel like being kind to anyone. Mommy wasn't cross. She smiled instead. I didn't mean real shoes, she said. I meant trying to put yourself in someone else's place. If you imagine how they might feel, you might see what could make them happy. I'm sorry about your shoes, I told her. She gave me a hug, and it unscrumpled my feelings and made me feel happy. Mommy is so kind. This is what it feels like when someone is kind to you. I thought, so I decided to try again. Before I put snails on Mr. Williams' garden the next day, I tried to imagine how he feels about his garden. He loves those flowers. So I thought it might be kinder to look after them. Off you go, little snails. You can eat the weeds. Thank you. When I thought of a fun game to play with my sister, I tried imagining how she might see it first. What would she think of a great big water fight? If I was in her place, I guess I wouldn't want all my paintings to get soaking wet. Splosh. So instead, I said, shall I play too? Even though I could think of games I'd rather play. But after I painted pictures with my sister, she played lots of my favorite games with me. Being kind is great, I thought. But some people are hard to be kind to. At school, I found the new kid sitting on her own. She looked really grumpy. Everyone else was playing and having fun, so I sat down by her and asked, "Do you want to play tag?" "No," she said. "Skipping?" I asked. "No," she said. In the end, I said, "I want to be kind to you, but I don't know how. What will make you happy?" She looked at me. "I like football," she said. So we played football, and she started to smile. So did I. Then I realized something. Being kind doesn't just make other people happy. It makes you happy too. Kindness makes you feel warm and sunshiny. And when you feel that way, you feel like being kind to someone else. "Oh dear, are you okay? Want me to help you up?" "Thanks." "You dropped these, here you go." So the kindness gets passed on, and it makes them feel warm and more sunshiny, and they feel like being kind to more people. "I made you guys pictures. You can do it. Want a turn? Yes, please." And in the end, sunshine kindness spreads everywhere. "Happy birthday. I'll give you a hand. Are you lost? Here you go. Thanks. This will help you feel better. Can I help carry your parcels?" Being kind is sometimes easy and sometimes hard, but it's really important to try. And because it's the importantest thing in the world, I am almost always kind. Thank you for listening. Now, if you let me get in front of the line, you can follow me out down to the RE Commons.
The purpose of any church is to encourage all who gather there to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human beings closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We will now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-supporting fellowship and its many ministries. The gifts of the congregation now will be most gratefully received. It's our custom in this fellowship to share the joys and sorrows that shape our lives, honoring each one with the lighting of a candle. We all have moments of celebration and struggle. By sharing these experiences with one another, we can support and uplift each other on our journeys. We have a concern from Zeke and Bridget Selby. Bridget's mom died last night, 3 weeks after having a stroke while Bridget was visiting her. She was 96. And we'll light one final candle representing all the joys and sorrows present in our hearts that remain unspoken. We will now observe a brief moment of silence before the meditation words begin. Our meditation words today are adapted from Robert Singa's as we rest our eyes in the spirit of meditation. May we understand that our feelings of fear, anger, temptation, and disharmony are part of our lives. Our task is not to try to deny these feelings, but rather to become determined to deal with them. Our task is to bring forth our own light of understanding, reason, and resolve, so that we can see what threatens us, and then follow that to our own path of wholeness. May we know that within each of us there is a source of strength and light that can restore us, if we just open ourselves to it. May it be so. And now we'll observe a brief moment of silence before our meditation hymn, number 21, begins, For the Beauty of the Earth.
With very best wishes to Chris on her sabbatical, I am honored and so privileged to be here. There are no other place I'd rather be this morning. And it's particularly gratifying to be invited to share in this way and to be with you, delivering a message at this point in my life. And I just met Frank and Jane Powell, whom I have known for many years. Please don't hold that against me, though. I met them going back to my car because I forgot one of my pairs of glasses. I have 3 or 4 pair up here. At this point in my life, when we have these kinds of physical needs, and I'm receiving senior birthday prayer cards like this one that says, "God grant me the senility to forget the people I never liked anyway. The good fortune to run into the ones that I do, and the eyesight to tell the difference. Happy birthday, Steve." I want to thank those people that have helped me, and Candy in particular, and the music person, and David. Aren't his stories always so wonderful? He asked me by email, what are we talking about today? And I mentioned one of my topics is going to be kindness, and he always seems to be so perfect. You probably have noticed that several of the summer speakers that are filling in during this summer season in Chris's absence are wrestling with and dealing with the same question. What does it mean to be human now, today, with all that's going on? Have you ever, after having an experience, realized that you did not get the meaning of that experience? You were there, but you somehow missed something. It's kind of like when you're looking at old family photographs and you're not in any of them, and you realize it's because you were behind the camera and taking the pictures. That's kind of what I'm feeling now as we are assaulted with the barrage, unending barrage of grievance and vulgarity and vanity and conspiracy lies coming from the White House. And I made a long list of things I wanted to mention, but I thought you'd make up your own list. It got too long. I can't read all this stuff. After my father-in-law, my wife Phyllis's father, died some years ago, her mother wanted to take the family, to gather the family, and in some sort of memorial remembrance and family celebration to go on a cruise out of Charleston. And with great excitement, we all packed our bags and made our plans and set the date, and finally got down there, and I drove down with my mother-in-law in the car and Phyllis, and we were meeting her brother and the wife and the sister and husband, and it was going to be wonderful. And I drove up to the pier there where you unload, and I unloaded the suitcases, and then I parked the car and met them inside, and we were instructed to go to our rooms, and the suitcases would be all delivered to our rooms. And Phyllis's came, and Phyllis's mother's came, and the other brother came, that came, and that came, and mine never did come. And so after several hours, I went up to the desk, the cruise ship desk, and I asked, I have not received my suitcase. They said, "Well, sir, it'll surely be coming." Well, I waited several more hours and went back. This has not arrived. Can you tell me what's going on? And they said, "Well, we're going to send out an all points bulletin," or whatever they do on the cruise ship, "and look, we'll find your suitcase and get it to you." Well, night came, and I went back up there, and I said, "How many people are on this cruise ship?" They said, 1,250. And I said, "How many suitcases have you lost?" They said, "Well, yours is the only one." Well, what can I do? They said, "Well, we have an old pair of shorts and an old T-shirt that you can." So, okay, I'll take them. The shorts were 2 sizes too big. I had to wrap the belt around special. And the T-shirt was an old ragged one that had seen me. So, when we had the family portrait, I had to stand behind everybody else, so only my face was showing. I would alternate the clothes that I had on when I got on the ship and that those borrowed clothes, donated clothes, and then, of course, I'll leave it to your imagination for what happened on the formal night. Anyway, I survived the week, and I got the telephone number and the address of the cruise ship company, and I said, when I get off this ship, I'm going to be calling and dealing with this, because you never did find my suitcase. Well, we went off, debunked, or whatever you do, get off a ship, and went out to the car and opened the trunk, and and I love my wife, but I would not be here today if it had been her suitcase. Anyway, I had the experience, but somehow I lost the meaning of the cruise and the family gathering and all. Michelle Obama said it so beautifully, I think, in her speech at the opening of the Obama Library. This is what she said: "I know that can be hard." She's talking about hope for the future. I know that can be hard to grasp right now, when everything feels upside down, when fact and fiction run together, when folks seek to stifle speech, limit access to education, devalue diversity, erase the inconvenient parts of our history, when our phones constantly buzz with the latest outrage. Sometimes I want to scream, and I feel the anger and outrage that Candy was talking about in the opening. I feel like when Forrest Gump went with his girlfriend Judy back to the house where she had been abused growing up, I felt just like this.
Sometimes I guess there just aren't enough rocks.
You're my people. I think you know the feeling. Sometimes there just aren't enough rocks. And I'm trying to deal with the outrage that I feel. I had a nightmare this past week without even watching that speech. Didn't want to watch it, but I knew it was happening, and I had a nightmare. And I wish today that I could offer some profound answer to help preserve the meaning of our humanity and not just the experience of it. Instead, my message has to be quite simple. Along the lines of Henry David Thoreau's reason for going to Walden Pond, he said that the reason he went to Walden Pond to live in the woods was to live deliberately, to reconnect with nature and to reconnect with the essentials of life. And so I just offer some thoughts that I'm trying to deal with for my own self. What am I going to do to connect the meaning of my humanity with the experience of it? And I'm going to talk about briefly what we do with ourselves, and then what we do with other people, and what we do with creation, the three dimensions of life that you have to decide on. With other people, be deliberately kind. With ourselves, be deliberately humble. And with nature, be deliberately amazed. The first, be kind. Do you remember Blockbuster? You used to rent these VHS things, and all of them had on it. You remember? Be kind, please rewind. There are other people in the world too, and don't just think of only yourself. We cannot be human by ourselves. We need other people. That's a part of the meaning of humanity. We are called humankind for a reason. Remember in that great story by Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, that Ebenezer Scrooge, the great businessman, you ever had a great businessman who was elected? Who all Ebenezer Scrooge could talk about and think about was his business. And Jacob Marley, his dead partner, comes back from the grave to warn him that he's missing the meaning of his existence and the human experience. And Scrooge says, well, what about business? And Jacob Marley's reply is, mankind was my business, and it's your business, humankind. On NPR, there's a wonderful program on Sunday afternoon, Hidden Brain. There's a series you've heard, My Unsung Hero. Stories about people who are being kind to people that they encounter along the way. And I'm going to read some of the taglines, and you will want to know the whole story of each one because each one is so inviting. And it's an invitation to go into this moment of happenstance. All right, here are some of the taglines about the story. In one of her most vulnerable moments, a stranger reached out for her hand. Another, how a nurse's kind words changed the course of one woman's life. Another, sobbing at a spotlight, a young woman gets support from a fellow driver. Wouldn't you like to know the rest of that story? The kindness. And this one, a stranger's compliment helped her feel confident after chemotherapy. And then this one, sitting in a jail cell alone and hopeless, a man's life was suddenly changed by a fellow inmate. And then this one, an unsung hero stopped in to help a newly widowed mother in a moment of need. And there's this one, how a stranger's kind words stayed with a father and his daughter. And then this one, perhaps an immigrant of all people. Homesick in a foreign country, a teenager meets a lifelong friend. And then this one, a woman grieving her divorce found comfort from a couple she passed on the hiking trail. At the Special Olympics for children with special needs, as the runners were crossing the finish line, there were huggers waiting to help each one and every one of them get across the finish line and celebrated and hugged them. And it was suggested that the International Special Olympics Committee should investigate because the athletes were using performance-enhancing hugs. And it can be so small, these things that we're talking about of kindness, of touching the humanity of somebody else in their place of vulnerability. 2 candles, one representing the sorrow and the grief. And then the other one, I bet, represents disease here, divorce, reunion, retirement, hurting, pain, sorrow, celebration, joy, happy things and good things. They're all scattered through this congregation right here in that candle. Kindness is touching those places. When Lieutenant Mark Edlin died in Vietnam, a note from his math teacher praising him was found in his wallet on his body. In the late 70s, one of my most tormented times in life. And I announced to the church that I was leaving one Sunday. The next Sunday, I announced that I was not leaving after all. Made some people glad and some people not. I got this in the mail. This was in the 70s, and I've kept it framed in my office since then. Feeling wishy-washy. It's a picture of a little mouse hanging out clothes. Feeling wishy-washy. Hope things brighten up soon. Steve, we know it's been a rough year for you, and hope you find peace in your struggle. We're pulling for you. Now, how much effort did it take for Betty Mulligan to do that? Huh? Now, I think of myself, I'm like the little girl in the wonderful little story that David told. I'm usually kind, but one thing that I'm trying to learn more is about noticing the invisible people in my life. And what I mean by that is that there are people, hidden people up there in the booth and in the choir and in the order of worship and the mopping the floor and vacuuming and cleaning the bathrooms. And there are people that are hidden all around in every place you go. A couple of Christmases ago, we got a note on our trash can that said, "Merry Christmas from your trash man." I'd never noticed him before. I didn't know I had a trash man. I should be kind to him. I should notice him. We were coming back, Phyllis and I, with her mother from Florida, driving up through North Georgia, coming back home, and we stopped in one little Georgia mountain town for a little cafe, and we ate, and it was just a little bitty place, and we could see in the kitchen the cook, hot, cooking, door was open. My mother-in-law got up and went into the kitchen and gave him a tip. Noticed people in the kitchen. Mr. Rogers, Mr. Wonderful Fred Rogers, had a gift to do, was kind in this way. And one time he noticed a little boy in a wheelchair, off to the side, invisible, unseen, and he went over to him and spoke to him. And then he went away, and the little boy said, Mom, look, he thinks I'm real. At United Ministries luncheon, several of you were probably there several years ago when they invited Stephanie Land, who wrote a book called Made, Hard Work, Low Pay, and a Mother's Will to Survive. And she told in that book about her difficulty of being homeless, single mother, homeless, poor, destitute poor, worked as a maid for rich people, perhaps like some of us. And she would go into the houses and they would complain, and she would notice their pictures on, and then see them in a store. They had no idea who she was. She could recognize them from the photographs in the houses. Later, a movie series on Netflix was created about her story and about her book, and people criticized her because they didn't like it. The rich people didn't like it. And Stephanie Land told her story, and then she said, I'm going to illustrate to you right now. You are sitting out there, hundreds of you, you're being served by men and women bringing food to you, and you haven't even noticed them, have you? The greatest danger to humanity is not artificial intelligence. It's our blindness to the humanity of one another, thinking about ourselves. And I think we are never experiencing the meaning of the experience of humanity more than we're kind to one another, especially to the invisible people. All right, anyway, that's other people, about ourselves. Be deliberately humble with ourselves. A lady in her church asked the Reverend Conan Avard Pierce, the rector of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Philadelphia, for back issues of her sermonette that she published every week. Would you give me some back issues? And she felt proud. People are noticing my preaching. And then the lady who was asking for the sermonette said, you know, they fit perfectly at the bottom of my bird cage. Humility is related to humus, the ground, the good earth, the soil. And the further we move away from the good earth through pride and inflated ego, the more we lose the meaning of our humanity. You remember in Greek mythology, Antaeus Antaeus drew his strength from being close to the ground, and Hercules, to defeat him, had to lift him up off the ground. That's ego. We make connection through our human vulnerabilities. I was real proud going to Wofford College in my sophomore year. I'd done very well my freshman year. I'd been chosen to be dorm counselor in Carlisle Hall the next year, and I got there. I was going to be in charge of the whole dorm, get paid for it, and I arrived early as I was supposed to, and I was going to have a freshman roommate, and he was going to look up to me because I was an upperclassman who had done well and had authority. So anyway, I was there, and he was not supposed to arrive when he arrived, but I was in bed, still in bed, in my jockey short underwear, and I heard some voices out in the hall. Nobody else was in the dorm. I heard voices, and I thought, they're not coming to this room, I hope. And then I heard some keys jangling outside, and I did what an enlightened 2-year-old would do. I ran and got in the closet. In my jockey short underwear, and that was it. That was the extent of me. And then I started praying. Dear Lord, do not let them come in this room, please. And then I heard the door opening, and I heard voices, and it was an older woman's voice and a younger woman's voice and a man's voice. And then I said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And they came in, and they started looking around. They said, oh, 2 beds, and there's 2 desks, and that bed is, your roommate must already be here. I wonder where he is. And then they opened the door. And I said, hello, I'm Steve Morgan, the dorm counselor. And my pride just went. Several years ago, when one of our sons was just so little, he was, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 years old. He was just able to do it, but he decided to answer the telephone in the parsonage. Hello. And then I heard him say, no, he can't come to the phone, he's pooping. And of all women in the church to tell that I was engaged in that kind of human business. So I would say, first of all, you have to laugh at yourself. Humanity, humility, humor. Jonathan Winters says that what he is most afraid of is not bombs and disease, but a man or a woman without a sense of humor. You ever known any national leaders who have absolutely no sense of humor? Several years ago, when I was working on my Emory degree, I worked at Marshall Pickens Psychiatric Hospital a while, and our group, I was in a certain group, and we were supposed to meet the director of the whole facility, Dr. Del Chapo. And we had heard the nurses talking about him, and we've heard patients talking about him, and everybody trembled at the footsteps of Dr. Del Chapo, of all names. And we were supposed to meet with him in his palatial office. It was half the size of this sanctuary. It just filled with all sorts of... Anyway, we sat there, and of course we had to wait on him to come. And then he finally came striding in and went to the chalkboard. You remember, some of you are old enough to remember chalkboards with white chalk. And he went straight to the board, and he picked up the chalk, and he wrote, Dr. Del Chapo. And he turned around and he scratched his nose. And he looked at us, and he had a big white blob all over his nose. And right then and there, I realized that he had put his pants on that morning the same way I put my pants on, even though he was Dr. Del Chapo. And I knew that when he went into his private bathroom after we left and looked in the mirror, he was going to be brought down, because he had a big white nose like the rest of us, chalk on his nose. It's clear that this administration cannot laugh at itself, and that's part of the problem. Anyway, secondly, you have to admit that you're wrong sometimes. Kat talked about that last week beautifully, in that beautifully crafted message that she brought. Mark Twain said, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. One of the deadliest behaviors to our humanity is the desire to be right. I know the sweetest words in my ear are when my wife says, "Dear, you are right again." For our 50th wedding anniversary, the family gave us 2 coffee cups. Mine had Mr. Right on it, and hers said Miss Always Right. And when Clark Clifford replaced Robert McNamara during the Vietnam War as the Secretary of Defense, you remember it used to be called the Secretary of Defense under Lyndon Johnson. Clifford determined that Vietnam was wrong and that it was unwinnable, and he said he tried to convince President Johnson, but Johnson refused to listen to him, because this is what Clifford said: "It is almost beyond human power to admit that we're wrong." Franciscan mystic Richard Rohr says that we should suffer an humiliation every day that is good for us, because it reminds us of the good earth, brings us down. Remember Colin Powell and the WMDs that they had in Iraq, and you remember Vietnam, you remember the Iraq War, and you remember the Iran War. When do you think the administration is going to say, we made a big mistake. We shouldn't have done this? And in my own field, Richard Hayes was the dean of the Duke Divinity School, and he wrote a book, and he quoted scripture, and he said, homosexuality is one among many tragic signs that we are a broken people, alienated from God. And then when he was dying in 2024, he published another book, and he said, I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. And he put it in print. I think we're never more human than when we have a regular diet of crow. And then lastly, when we're deliberately amazed at the world, ourselves kind, with other people kind, with ourselves humble, and with the world around. Be deliberately amazed at creation, big and little. Socrates said that wonder is the beginning of wisdom, not knowledge. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Herschel says that our goal should be to live fully in radical amazement, to get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted, because everything is phenomenal, everything is incredible, and you should never treat life casually. And to be spiritual is to be amazed at it. He said that he prayed not for happiness, but just for wonder. AI will never experience all, because true experiences of all are never related to productivity or profit or accumulation or algorithms or getting a new car. All is being transported to a transcendent level of consciousness by being overwhelmed by mystery, being lost and dumbfounded by something that makes us speechless and takes us out beyond ourselves. It gives us a sense of connection with something higher and something more. Thomas Berry, who is a cultural historian, says that the blueprint of your spirituality is written in nature. And if you want to understand yourself, you read nature through ordinary things like flowers and trees and rivers and stars and birds and bugs. And I think there's nothing too large or too small that can evoke amazement. For Carl Sagan, it was the night sky that did something to him. And for author Mary Shelley, it was a lightning storm that she experienced that brought the meaning of her life to her. For Jane Goodall, of course, it was the chimpanzees. For John Muir, it was the sequoias of Yosemite Valley. And for mystic Julian of Norwich, it was simply a little hazelnut. And she went into through the mystery of the hazelnut. The closest I've come to that is when I was hiking the trail to Machu Picchu, several days and nights on that trail up through the top of the Andes Mountain, absolutely nothing for I don't know how far. In the middle of the night, I got up, and the Milky Way, I could touch it. No lights anywhere. It does something to you. There's a new book. Anthropologist Deanna Wiebel has interviewed astronauts and asked them about the experience, the meaning of their experience in space. And her book is called The Ultra View Effect: What We Learn from Astronauts About Awe, Humility, and the Unknown. And they come back all saying how humbled they are and about their experiences of awe. One scientist had two groups to gaze at different things. And one group gazed at a tree, while another group he had gazed at a building. And then he studied them. And he found that those that gazed at a tree were more likely to help and connect with other people than those people that looked at the building. Anyway, so whether it's a bug, a butterfly, a bush, a bird, or a banana, I had a friend who told about his grandfather. One day the boy was moping around through the house and said, "I'm bored." And the grandfather said, "Come here, I want to show you something you've never seen before." And took him into the kitchen and got a banana, and they opened it. And he said, "Nobody's ever seen that before." And the boy said to him, "Well, Grandpa, it's just a banana." He said, "Son, I want to teach you a lesson. Don't ever say just, because you don't know what you're talking about. Do you know the story of the banana? The varieties of banana, where the banana came from? Do you know about the people who harvest it? Do you know about the story in Central America about the way this nation influenced the Colombian government and took over the lands of poor people there and virtually enslaved the people who were there? Do you know how they have to harvest this? And the way it gets here, it's traveled over 1,000 miles to get to your mouth. And you say it's just a banana? You don't know what you're talking about." I think we're never more human than we are when we are dumbstruck with awe. So friends, I would have liked to say something really profound today, but maybe if we are deliberately kind to one another and notice the unseen people in our lives, and deliberately humble with ourselves, and deliberately and unceasingly amazed with all of creation, that'd be pretty profound if we'd live that way all the time. And if you go outside and you want to throw a rock, I think Washington is that way. Thank you.
And now if you'll rise in body or spirit to sing hymn number 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing. of my favorite songs. Please join me by saying the words on the screen as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Words of Mary Oliver in our benediction: when it's all over, I want to say all my life I was a bride married to amazement.